nutrient deficiencies that wreck your thyroid and how to fix them. Your thyroid isn't just waiting on medication, it's starving for nutrients. If you're doing all the right things, taking your thyroid meds, eating well, sleeping more, but still feel tired, foggy, puffy, cold, or disconnected from yourself, this episode is for you, because today I'm breaking down the critical nutrient gaps that could be silently sabotaging your thyroid function and how to fix them safely and strategically. Welcome back to Beyond the Prescription. I'm Dr. Alison Grimston, GP, functional medicine doctor and head of women's health at Dr. Finley's private practice. In this series, I go deeper than conventional medicine usually allows because women deserve more than normal bloods and yet another prescription. You deserve answers that make sense of your symptoms. Today we're talking about a hidden root cause that I see again and again in clinic: micronutrient deficiencies. Not the dramatic scurvy style deficiencies of medical school textbooks, but subtle, suboptimal levels that quietly disrupt your thyroid's ability to do its job. By the end of this session, you'll understand the most important nutrients your thyroid depends on, why even a healthy diet may not be enough, how your gut health affects what your body actually absorbs, and which tests to ask for, and how to supplement without guesswork. And I'll share a free thyroid nutrition checklist you can use right away to review your own patterns. So the first point is your thyroid needs more than just a pill. Thyroid medication might give you your body hormone, but without the nutritional building blocks, your thyroid system still can't work properly. Think of it like giving someone flour and eggs, but no oven, no electricity, no tools. You won't get a cake. Here are the key nutrients I assess in nearly every thyroid patient, especially those with persistent fatigue, poor mood, or autoimmunity. Firstly, selenium. It's essential for converting T4 to T3. And you will have heard from my previous talks that T4 is the hormone released from the thyroid. T3 is the one that's 70 times more effective. And T4 is converted to T3 in the cells throughout the body. But it needs selenium. Selenium also supports glutathione production, which is your thyroid's internal antioxidant defense. It's also really important for your whole body's antioxidant. It's a major antioxidant in the body. So selenium is needed for glutathione to work properly. Selenium is often depleted by stress, by infections, or poor soil quality. And UK soils are notoriously low in selenium. So low selenium leads to sluggish conversion and increased inflammation. So the ideal range is 100 to 130 micrograms per litre in your serum, but we don't measure that. Next, we'll look at zinc. It's needed for thyroid hormone synthesis and receptor sensitivity. It supports immunity and healing. It's commonly low in women with gut issues, stress, or plant-based diets. Symptoms of low zinc include brittle nails, poor wound healing, low libido, and white spots on your nails. The ideal range in the serum is at least 14 micromoles per litre. And that is something that can be measured in the NHS and is a more routine blood test, but it's not done, ask for it, unless there's a real reason. Next, we'll talk about iron, ferritin. It's needed for the thyroid peroxidase enzyme that helps to create thyroid hormone. And it also supports mitochondrial function and energy production. So even if your thyroid's working fine, if you're deficient in iron, then your energy will be depleted. And then you'll have that feeling of anemia that people associate with anemia. So low ferritin means there's no fuel for thyroid production. Women often have a normal ferritin of 20 to 30. Find optimal thyroid function kicks in when ferritin is above 70 to 90 micrograms per litre. So you want optimal levels, not normal levels. And it's often raised actually in my patients, my clients, because ferritin is also an acute phase protein. So it is actually released into the body when we've got inflammation going on. So it may not be, it's the first step in analysing what your iron levels are. And of course, women who are menstruating are more likely to be deficient in ferritin and iron. Next, vitamin B12 is really important. It supports neurological function, mood, and DNA methylation. It's needed for energy production and gut lining health, and it's commonly low in women with stress, autoimmune conditions, or acid reducing medications. I recommend you use methylcobalamin or hydroxycobalamin, not just cyanocobalamin, which is the cheaper version that's found in most supplements. So do read the ingredients on your multivitamin. The ideal serum range is more than 500 picomoles per litre, but in the NHS they often say if it's not, but you may well still feel tired if you have a level between 100 and 500 of your vitamin B12. And once you're taking supplements or having injections, the serum level is not an accurate reflection of the B12 availability to your cells. It's better, it's more important for volume in the full blood count, and another little known test called MMA. And if it's high, don't worry. Don't be put off by people like me as a young GP ringing you up and saying your vitamin B12 is sky high. If you've got a high level of vitamin B12, you could still be deficient at the cell level. It could be high because it's not going into the cells, and that can be partly a genetic issue. So B12 is complicated too. Now, vitamin D3, it modulates the immune system. It increases thyroid hormone receptor sensitivity. That means the receptor, the thyroid receptor cell on the cell is more sensitive to thyroid hormone if you have your vitamin D3 at optimal levels. It supports mood, bones, insulin sensitivity, and far more. I want you to aim for between in UK units, 150 and 200. And it's ideally tested at the end of winter, so you know what the most depleted level is. And it's not just dependent on your intake, it's dependent on your gut health and microbiome and your genetics as well. So if you improve your gut health, your vitamin D3 need will change. And when you supplement, I recommend you have vitamin K2 with it. It increases the absorption into the bone. So have you ever had your ferritin, selenium or zinc tested alongside your thyroid? I'd love you to let me know in the chat. So the next point, you can eat healthily and still be deficient. This one surprises many of my patients. They'll say, but I eat really well. Lots of greens, whole foods, organic where I can. How can I be deficient in these micronutrients? The answer is absorption. So let's talk about the gut for a moment. Gut issues can block your nutrient absorption. If you have low stomach acid, which is very common as we get older, poor absorption of iron, zinc and B12 is the inevitable result, just as your absorption of calcium and magnesium has been depleted, as I talk about in other talks. SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth. This is overgrowth that steals nutrients and damages the lining of the gut, so you can't absorb things properly. Leaky gut, where you have inflammation and a loss of transport proteins and space between the cells of the gut lining. That can impact your absorption as well. And then if you have either celiac disease, which is gluten allergy, or non-celiac gluten sensitivity, which is far more common, this will cause an impairment of absorption across the board. There is also medication interactions that will in fact impact how much you absorb your nutrients. If you are taking a proton pump inhibitor like omeprazole, lansoprazole, rabeprazole, pantoprazole, and if you take antacids, these will lower your stomach acid because that's the way they work. And that in turn will deplete your absorption of B12, zinc and iron. Metformin itself reduces B12 absorption. So if you're on metformin for diabetes or for polycystic ovary syndrome, it increases your risk of B12 deficiency. And then antibiotics, which of course disturb your microbiome diversity. That will then affect vitamin K2, B6 and biotin, and have a roll-on effect on your thyroid function. Then we have hormone shifts and menopause. Estrogen fluctuations, the ups and downs of perimenopause, that can alter stomach acid, bile flow, and gut motility. Menopause then increases the risk of low magnesium, zinc, and B12. So either of these, perimenopause and menopause, and other causes of estrogen fluctuations, like having anovulatory cycles when you're not releasing an egg, these can impact your micronutrient absorption and levels. So imagine your fridge is full of food, but the power's not on. That's what happens when you eat the right things, but your gut can't absorb or activate them. Have you ever been told your gut or your stress levels could be affecting your nutrient status? Do let me know. The next thing is test, don't guess, then supplement smartly. Let's talk about testing and action, because guesswork doesn't work and overdosing can be just as harmful as deficiency. I recommend the lab test that you get should include ferritin and a full blood count to look at the impact of that, serum zinc, selenium, vitamin B12, 25 hydroxy vitamin D, magnesium red blood in the red blood cells, so red blood cell magnesium, and copper, because you need that to balance the zinc. You might also look for activated red blood cell B12. So the functional ranges that we use in functional medicine are much narrower and more clinical useful than the normal reference ranges where we're just looking at, are you the same as 95% of the population? Well, I don't know about you, but I want to be much fitter than 95% of the population. So I'm aiming at a much tighter normal range for my patients and clients. So then we want smart supplementation. You want to choose bioavailable forms of these micronutrients, such as zinc picolinate, selenomethionine, methylated B12, depending on your genetics. And this is where having your nutrigenomics analysis is so helpful. D3 with K2 to help the absorption, and iron bisglycinate if you can tolerate it. So avoid high dose iodine unless guided, unless you've tested. It can aggravate Hashimoto's, but that doesn't mean to say it will aggravate Hashimoto's. So some people with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism have too low iodine, other people have too high iodine. It's another test that I recommend you get done. Iron and zinc compete for absorption, so take them at different times of the day. Iron is best absorbed with vitamin C. And don't forget, zinc and copper work together. If you have too much zinc, if you supplement too much with zinc, you'll get a depletion of copper. If you've got a zinc deficiency, you've often got a copper excess. So you do need ideally to check both. Most of the time we can't though. And remember to use supplements as part of a broader strategy. It's not a quick fix. It's not to supplement a poor diet. It's to supplement an optimal diet. So we have a 3-step process here. Test, including nutrients, thyroid hormones, and gut function. Support the gut, digestion, and your stress. Supplement based on clear needs at the right dose and with follow-up. Have you ever started a supplement without knowing your levels? What happened? I know that you have, and you may not have noticed any difference, possibly because very often the supplements are poor quality anyway. We do have an increase in vitamin B6 toxicity, which causes neurological symptoms, very similar to B6 deficiency actually. So do beware, B6 has been added to a lot of supplements, so you can get an excess. Let me share with you a story that's likely familiar to many of you. The story of a woman who had been doing everything right, yet still felt utterly wrong. This client, we'll call her Emma, she came to me in her early 40s. She had been diagnosed with hypothyroidism years before and was stable on levothyroxine according to the blood tests. And every few months she was told that her thyroid levels were within the normal range. In fact, they would only test it once a year because she didn't have a change in her symptoms. But she didn't feel within range. She didn't feel fine. She was chronically tired, even after 9 hours of sleep. She woke unrefreshed. She was dealing with crushing brain fog that made her question her memory. And as we get older, we start worrying about dementia, don't we? When we go through that perimenopausal brain fog, especially as we see our parents and aunts and uncles and that generation struggling with those mental issues. She was also experiencing low mood, poor motivation, and that wired but tired evening slump. She was feeling like her body just wasn't hers anymore. Her GP had reassured her repeatedly that her thyroid was being well managed, but Emma knew that something was being missed, so we dug deeper. What we found, we ran a comprehensive thyroid panel and tested her key nutrient levels. And here's what we discovered. Her ferritin was 28, low for someone trying to maintain energy and hair health. Her B12 was borderline at 300, well below optimal for neurological support. Selenium was suboptimal, which explained that sluggish T4 to T3 conversion that we were seeing. And her free T3 was at the low end of normal, suggesting that her conversion from T4 to T3 was impaired. Gut symptoms, which she hadn't even mentioned initially, including occasional bloating and alternating bowel habits, pointed to a deeper absorption issue as well. And this story is so common. Women assume that if they're eating well, they must be getting what they need. But the gut tells a different story. So we took a functional layered approach. We introduced bioavailable supplements, iron bisglycinate, methylated B12 and selenomethionine, all dosed carefully and spaced for best absorption. With iron, I recommend taking 2 tablets every other day rather than 1 every day or 1 3 times a day as we were taught at medical school. We added a digestive support supplement to aid nutrient uptake. And we included bitters, so chewing celery before meals, for example, or apple cider vinegar, and a mild enzyme blend. We focused on gut healing, a short elimination protocol followed by reintroduction and repair using glutamine and anti-inflammatories like aloe and zinc carnosine. And we calmed her stress system with morning light exposure, gentle walks and adaptogens, and bringing in some mindfulness and journaling. We didn't change her thyroid medication. We didn't add anything fancy. We didn't add T3. We simply addressed the foundations her body had been missing. By the 6-week mark, Emma said her brain fog had started to lift, and that's difficult to pinpoint, isn't it? It's quite an intangible thing to measure. And for the first time in years, she could hold a train of thought from start to finish. By 3 months, her energy was consistent throughout the day. Her mood had stabilized, and she described something I hear often from clients. When we nourish at the cellular level, I feel like my body's actually working again, like I'm plugged back in. So the takeaway is that sometimes it's not about changing the medications. It's about supporting the terrain they work within. Your thyroid needs nutrients. Your gut determines what you absorb. And your energy reflects how well these systems are communicating with each other. Emma's case wasn't rare. It was just finally approached with the right questions and the right tools. So, if you found this helpful, drop the word thyroid below and I'll send you a free guide to thyroid boosting nutrients you can check with your own GP. If you're ready to take a deeper dive into your own thyroid health and hormone health, this is exactly what we explore inside my private functional health concierge program. Send me a direct message with the word reset if you'd like to explore what's possible. And thanks for watching Beyond the Prescription. We're live every Friday at 9 a.m. UK. I'm Dr. Alison Grimston, functional medicine doctor and GP. Next week's episode is your periods, your thyroid and your mood, how they're all connected. Who knew, eh? We'll unpack estrogen dominance, progesterone drops, cortisol imbalances, and how to tell if it's your thyroid, if your hormones, or both. So it's the same time, same place, 9 a.m. UK, here on Facebook and YouTube. I'll see you then.